Hello guys, welcome to this section of Power BI series. Today we are going to be talking about the data analysis expression, the DAX, which is actually a function and is a library of functions and operators that can be combined to build formulas and expression in Power BI, in analysis services, in pivot tables, in Excel data models. There are actually some functions here in the documentation. You can go ahead and practice as more as you can. We're just going to touch the basic and the ones that you need most. So let's navigate back to our Power BI desktop, and here I've actually loaded some data into my model. I'll go to provide the data in the description below. You can go ahead and download it and practice as we go along. So the first thing I want to show you guys here is the difference between the calculated columns and the measures. Why should you use the measures over the calculated columns? I'm going to show you guys here in an example real quick. So here, if I navigate back to my tables here, I have the cells which consist of most of the IDs of most of these tables here. So here we want to create a relation. Let's create a relation by first of all pulling the price of a product using the product ID, and we want to call this column, we want to call it price. I want to call it price. I want to create a relation. Just get it from that product, get it from the product table. It's very simple. We're just creating the relation. We're just getting this price here from this product table, this particular price column. And the next thing we want to do is we want to multiply the quantity by the price to get a revenue. And after that, I'm still going to produce another column using the measures and show you an example why you need to use the measures over the calculated columns. Here's another one again. We want to call this one 9. Let's call this one revenue calculate. And this one we want to calculate the sales price multiply by the sales quantity. Let's do that and see. This is a perfect example of a calculated columns. So here, if we come back to this visual now, let's visualize this revenue generated by the calculated columns. Let's use the location ID to see it properly. This is a perfect example. So now let's go ahead and create this particular, let's replicate this using the revenue, using the measures, and you see why you should use the measures over the calculated columns. You can just right click on the table and click on new measures, and it will open a DAX window for you. You can go ahead and drop it down. Are you seeing it? So from here we want to call this one let's call this revenue measures. And let's use an aggregate function, which is some x. I'm going to explain this later. And we want to get it from the sales table. From the sales table, we want to get the sales price multiplied by the sales quantity. So let's close that back. Actually minimize this and let's hit enter. And we should get a new column, which is the revenue. You can see both by their icon, you can look at this one and this one, they don't look alike. So let's visualize this again and see. I'm going to drag the location ID and drop it on the X axis, and here you can see that using the measures we are able to get the same result that we got using the calculated columns. So what is the difference? The difference here is the calculated columns are actually visible on the table. You can see they are visible, while the measures are not visible, and this can really help in optimization, which is why we advise you to use the revenue, to use the measures over the calculated columns. And here you can see that we are able to achieve the same result using the measures, and without making it, you probably have a very bulky data set and you don't want to continue loading data onto your model. You can as well create the measures, and it will actually speed up your model. I hope that helps. And that's what I'll show you guys here is you need to group your your calculations, you're doing your DAX calculation, it's not good to just leave them into the table scattered. You can actually create another table and actually put all your calculations there. Let me show you guys real quick. If you come to this home here, we'll come on enter data. We can come and enter data here and create a blank table. Let's call this table let's call this table key. Let's call it key measures. Key measures should be enough. So let's load that. So once we load that, if we apply the change, the window will make some noise. I'm sorry about that. And there you go. Here is the table, the key measures. So what you can do is, if you come and click on this here, you will see that it's actually the home table is actually sales. So we can actually select the table that we want it to be inside, which is key measures, and this will move inside this key measures. You can see that if we select this calculation here, let's select it. Okay, it's not a measure, so it's not possible for us to move that. I hope that helps. And we'll go ahead and let's go ahead and delete this one because we don't need it. It's actually a default column that was created from the table, else the table will be empty. So now everything is all set. So now we are going to move to the aggregate function. Let's talk about the aggregate. The first aggregate function I want us to look about to actually look at is the average. Let's look at the average sales quantity. So here we have our table for the key measures that we have already created here. So if I come to these key measures here, I can just right click on it as well, add a new measure. So here let's call this the average. So want to do the average, you know, that is actually an autocomplete. Want to look at the average sales, quantity, the average sales quantity. So if we create that measure, so now we can go ahead and visualize it. Okay, it gives us a chart. Let's look at it with a table so that'll be very easier for you to actually understand it. If you look at this now, you see we have the average sales is actually 2.9. If we actually want to see each customer average sales by each customer ID, we can just drag that in here and you see each customer by their average sales. Let's go ahead and look at another aggregate function, and the one let's look at the max. Let's look at the max. You can navigate to the we created a function without naming it. Okay, I think it didn't create it. So let's look at the max. I want to call this one sales. I'm always making typo error, sorry about that. Let's look at the max. We have the mean A, the max A, the max X. Let's look at the max. So we want to look at the sales, maximum sales by quantity. So if we do that, we are going to look at this cost. If we visualize that with this, we see each customer's maximum sales quantity. Actually, let me go ahead and expand this so you can see very well. I seen it. So we can as well visualize this with the location according to their location. If we come here, we visualize this average down here with the location according to location sales. If we come to location ID, we add it here. Okay, it's supposed to be the x-axis. We are just explaining the DAX. We are going to actually create a video especially for data visualization. So if you don't understand these visuals here, just try to understand the DAX, which is the primary goal of this video. I'm just trying to make you understand some of the calculations here. That is why I am actually making these visuals for it. So let's go ahead and see other aggregate functions. So here I've created a sample table. I'm going to show you can go ahead and create it and use it to practice. Let's view it and see. Here where I have sample 1 and sample 2. Sample 1 has 2 blank and some repetition, and sample 2 has some boolean true and false data. I want to use this to explain the different type of count that we have here. We have the count A, the count blank, count rows, the distinct count. Let's see how we can explain all those different type of count using this table here. So let's come back to our key measures and let's create a new measure, and let's call this one let's call this sample. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and expand it. Let's call this sample. Let's call this one sample count. And the first count I want us to look at is the count. Let's see that real quick. So here, if I count it's called sample table. If I count the sample table from the column 1, and that should return the total number of rows in that. Let's create that measure. Let's go ahead and visualize it. Let's use a card so that we can see it very well. A card. Here you can see we have about 9. So actually what this particular count function, what it does is it returns all the total number of rows in that columns. Here you can see it, this particular sample table here, it returns all the total number of rows in this column here, and there are actually 9 in numbers. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. It returns the total number of rows. This is for the column 1. It counted all the rows in column 1. How about we use that particular count function to count the total number of rows in column 2? What will it happen? Let's do that and see. Let's load that and see if we are going to get something. And here you can see we have an error. Let's go ahead and see that error. The error say calculation error in major key sample count. The function cannot work with values of type boolean. So this particular function here cannot count boolean. That is where the count A comes in. This particular count A. This one here we can use it to count boolean. So let's go ahead and change. Let's add A to that place, and let's hit enter and see if it's actually going to count the rows for us. And here you can see it counted all the rows in sample 2, and there are actually 9 in numbers as well. So let's move to the next count. The next count I want to look at, let's look at the count blank. Let's look at the count blank, and which particular rows say do we have blank rows. If we view this, if you can see that the sample 1 will have blank rows there. So this is supposed to return 2 blank rows for us. Let's see that real quick. I will change this to let's change this to sample 1, and let's change this function to count blank. So let's hit enter and see if it's going to return 2 for us. So this particular function here is going to count only the blank rows in a particular rows for us, only the blank rows in a particular column for us. It will return it those rows for us. So the next count function I want us to look is this count rows here. What this does is it returns all the total number of rows in that particular table. So here, instead of we selecting a particular column, we just want to select the table. Please select the table. We have count rows, so the table is actually sample table. So if we do that, it's supposed to return the total number of rows in a particular table for us, and there are actually 9. The total number of rows in a particular table. You don't need to select a particular column, just it will count all the rows in that particular table for you. Let's look at another this thing for us. So now we are counting the total number of data in the particular rows. What if we want to get the distinct value in a particular row? This is where the distinct count comes in. So here we want to get the distinct number of values in a particular column. So let's look at the sample. Let's look at the sample let's count the sample one and let's see how many distinct value we have there. Here we have 6. If we come back to this table here and check, you can see we have 6, the distinct number of values in that particular rows. There are 6. Let's check for the second one. Let's check the second one. Let's check the second one, the distinct count. Let's check, sorry, let's come here, let's check the second one. Second one, which is 2. Let's check it and see. And here it returns the distinct count are actually 2. Why is it 2? Sample the distinct count. Oh yes, why is it 2? We have only false and true. False and true here. That is why we got only 2. And here we got 6 because 1 we have 1. It counts 1. This double figure say it counts them 1. It count this one 2. It count this one 3. It count this one 4, 5, and it count the blank as 6. Did we get it now? And here we have only the distinct count of values here. When we talk about the distinct count, it doesn't return. It doesn't count duplicate. It counts only distinct count. So here, if you come back to this table here, you can see that the distinct, we have two blank rows, and it's going to count only 1. It doesn't count duplicates. Here it will count only 1. It counts this as 2. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And here we have true and false, which is only 2. So I believe you understand what this distinct count here. If you don't understand, you can go ahead and drop it a comment in the comment section, and I'll be glad to answer you. When I was explaining the difference between the measures and the calculated columns, I did use a particular SUMX aggregate function, and I want to explain why it is preferable over the sum. If we come back to our table here, you can see that we created this revenue calculate using this calculated function. What if we want to use the sum function to create this particular kind of columns? You will see that we will not get a particular exact result. Let me show you guys in a real example. If we create a new column here, and let's call it let's call this one, let's call it sum calculate. I'm always having problem with spellings, I don't know. So let's call this one sum. We wanted to sum the sales price, right, times the sum of what did we do that time? Sales, it was sales quantity, right? Sales quantity. Let's see. If we do this, you will see that we have a very huge value. So in some cases like this, it is preferable for you to use the calculated columns to get that. Are you seeing it? If you visualize this, you will see that it will be very, very huge. Let's come here and visualize it, and you can see, if we come to this place, it is revenue calculate. Let's use a card so that we can see it very well. It's about 20 trillion, and this is not what we want. If I come and visualize the same result, this and this, using the card, you can see that here we got different values. What if you want to do this using the measure? I can call it let me call it my sum revenue. Spelling error again, oh my god. So if I call this sum x, now here you can see, let me close it so that you see some right on. It return the sum of an expression evaluated for rows in a table, which is what we need. So here we just have to select a particular table, which is sales. Then we can go ahead and add our calculations. Our calculation, sales price, the sales price multiplied by sales quantity. Are you seeing it? And here, if I visualize this, we should get the same thing here. Let me visualize this. Let me visualize this. Let me use it doing a card. And here you can see this is the one done. This is something so that you can see. For instance, we want to sum the quantity of all the products. If you come to this sales here, we can let me create another new measures here. using the let's sum the quantity of all the products. It's actually a very nice column, nice sum sales. It's actually a very nice function, but you don't use it to create columns that has to do some calculation. You will not get the exact result. Let's sum the quantity. Let me sum the sales. What's wrong with my spelling error? The quantity here, this is the sales quantity. If I come here and visualize this, you can see this is the sales quantity. Let's actually do it with a product, sales quantity by product, and you can see actually a very nice function. But basically for the DAX Essential, this will just be all. If you want to continue, because we're going to release another video on DAX Advanced, we are going to cover so many functions on the advanced topics in DAX. It's advisable that you subscribe to this YouTube channel as well as turn on the notification button. It's very, very important, so that once a new video is released, you'll be the first to be notified. For this particular video, that will be all. Thanks for watching. Stay blessed.